Hi, everyone. A fantastic Sunday to everyone out there and wherever you are in the world. And welcome to the first panel session here at the Global Empowerment Summit 2021, where we'll be talking all things health, fitness, and overall well-being. My name is Raj Aria. And as we all know, we've been through an extremely turbulent and uncertain period over the past 18 months as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, a black swan event like no other in our lifetimes. And make no mistake, we are still not out of the woods by a long shot. That said, the GES is all about giving hope, information, and hopefully some useful takeaways or golden nuggets of wisdom that you'll be able to utilize to better your lives moving forward. Which now brings me to my very diverse expert panel of guests who'll be sharing their unique perspectives on health and wellness. Firstly, we have from the UK, Stefan Taylor, a women's wellness coach. Now moving closer to home here in Malaysia, we have Karishma Valliappan, or Kari for short, a neurocognitive and brain health specialist. Following her, we have Anuar Faizal, a Malaysian fashion designer and PR practitioner. And still in Malaysia, we have Emma Manap, a senior corporate training specialist and sales coach. And last but not least, we are going full circle back to the United Kingdom. We have Christiana T. Johnson, a couples mindset fitness and nutrition coach. How are you guys doing? How's everyone on this fine Sunday?
Excellent.
Thanks, awesome. Great, fantastic. Great to be here. I'm glad to be here.
Likewise, Chris and Stefan, I know you are in the wee hours of the morning back in the UK, so good to see everyone's up and running today. As you can see, I'm also decked out in my compression top in the spirit of talking about all things fitness and health today, but it's going to be more of a verbal and mental workout. Now, to get the ball rolling, obviously, I'm sure our audience would like to know a little bit about each of you, as well as your personal journey throughout your lives and how you ended up where you are today. So perhaps, Stefan, you could start us off in terms of your journey thus far.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be here today. It is early on a Sunday morning, but we're here, aren't we, Christiana? So a little bit about my personal journey. I've been in the health and fitness industry for 22 years. All the way through my growing up, I had a strong affinity to exercise because I was struggling with education. Education wasn't really attracting me and guiding me. So I went down the sport route. I played sport and I found myself forging a career out of something I really loved and enjoyed. I spent 10 years in the Royal Air Force working as a rehabilitation instructor and a physical training instructor. And then I was blessed enough to be part of the motor racing industry where I work with professional racing drivers flying around the world. It sounds really glamorous, but it's not. It's airports, it's race circuits, it's early mornings, it's 48 hours without sleep. Not glamorous, but it seems like it is. I then moved on to running women's boot camps and PT for women. And I strongly found there was a real positive connection, even though it felt like a negative connection with women I was working with. They were working really hard, trying really hard with losing weight and exercising their asses off. Can I say that? Can I say that? I don't know. But not getting the results they wanted. And I found a strong affinity to what I experienced. They were struggling internally with their images of themselves, just as I struggled with my internal image of myself. And I had to learn very quickly their language because they were talking to me about what they were experiencing post-childbirth, the difficulties they were having with their self-esteem, their physical difficulties in terms of why their body wasn't responding to exercise. And I could understand their difficulties personally, even though there's obviously a huge difference between the male and female anatomy, that what they were going through psychologically, I could empathize with. So I began to dive more into that, and it brought us closer together. So it inspired me to continue to work with women who are going through the perimenopause and the menopausal journey. And that's where I am now, in running a 3-month program for women, particularly who are struggling with self-identity related to how they perceive exercise and nutrition to be helping or hindering them.
Okay, fantastic. Right. We're going to touch more on what you have just said later during our session. Now, moving on, Carrie, could you share your insights about your journey?
Hi, Raj. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So for me, I was diagnosed with hard of hearing at the age of 10. And then I had severe depression much later. And I was actually a dancer. So it all started with me and my journey with dance. And when I was going through depression, I was on antidepressants and I didn't want to be on those kind of medications and all of that. And then suddenly I just started jogging. I actually started walking first, not really jogging. And I just fell in love with fitness. And to be honest, that's when I realized that I could actually manage my depression, just getting into fitness, whether it was, I obviously didn't lift dumbbells at that point, but it was more cardio, it was more body weight, and it actually really helped me mentally. And then I have 10 years mental health experience. So I've worked with NGOs, I've worked with individuals as well. And then I studied neuroscience, and then I got into brain health. So currently what I focus on is mental, physical, and social well-being. So when I say physical, of course, it doesn't mean lifting dumbbells. It's more like brain exercises. So that's what I focus on. But I use my personal story and I help people, and my personal journey, and I help people manage their mental illnesses or even neurological disorders. So that's pretty much me. Thank you, Raj.
Thanks for that, Carrie. Next, we have Anuar from the glamorous world of fashion. So could you just share with us a bit more about your journey in the past?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Anuar Faizal from Malaysia. Well, basically, I've always been a vain pot, very obsessed with looking good, to feel good. So I decided to create garments that basically complement the figure. Because when you work hard in the gym, you want to show your gains and all that. So from that point of view, from being a very vain person, I discovered that I had a voice. I had a voice where I can basically motivate and educate people to be the best versions of themselves. So I started doing the traditional clothing of Malaysia, which is baju Melayu, which was very tight fitting. So it had a huge backlash. People were saying that I was not being respectful of the garment and everything else. But then people started to love it because I was educating them to be at their best level of fitness that they could be in order to wear my garments. So yeah, that was the feel good factor for me. So then again, of course, with COVID and all, the gyms are now closed, but they slowly started to reopen. Everyone has been putting on weight, and so yeah, I just have to re-educate them again. But yeah, that's a little part of my fitness journey.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to hear more about how you intertwine both the fashion aspects as well as the personal confidence on an external point of view and bringing it together to be able to move forward from a mental point of view. Emma,
Okay.
yourself, your story. Oh, I think your mic is off.
All right, sorry. Hola, everyone. Emma here. Okay, myself experienced as a senior training specialty with a demonstrate history of 11 years working experience in insurance industry. So I skilled in emceeing events, sales coaching, sales and marketing training. So I'm here to provide free motivation and empower, especially for single mother out there to face through any challenges that they face throughout their success journey. Besides that, as today we are talking about fitness, I would love to share an awareness how your fitness, wellness and health can contribute to your self-confidence and happy life. So like me, myself, everything started during the pandemic situation. I joined Fit Mom Project, and yeah, I will be talking more about this being independent start with you. So looking forward to share all this story with all of you today.
All right, fantastic, Emma. And last but not least, Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christiana T. Johnson. Well, I listened to Stefan. Stefan, your story and my story kind of is similar. I'm always into fitness, wellness. From childhood, I did every sport you can think of. I was so into fitness, whether I was basketball, football. By the time I got to the age of 12, I was a football captain of my football team. So I did the whole of the fitness thing, but I'm from a family that really requires me, from an academic point of view, to go into a profession. And I chose to go on the route of law. Went into law, qualified, came out, and was still going through it. In fact, during my lectures and during my university time, I used to talk about fitness, wellness, giving like guys having, what to do and what not to do and what not to eat and so on and so forth. But it wasn't until I went into the legal profession and discovered that my mental health was starting to suffer, because I was focusing on this journey that deep down I didn't want to do, but it was something that was expected of me. And for me to kind of, I guess, I don't know if anyone has this, but from my parents' point of view, I'm a first of 6, and we've all been given a profession, right? So from being a lawyer, doctor, accountants, architects, engineers, all 6 of us have come to what our parents wanted us to do. But I was working and thinking, I didn't feel fulfilled. Like, what is going on? Like I said, my mental health started to take a deep dive, and I really had to think about it. Was it worth me? Imagine I was traveling, commuting, 3 hours drive, a round trip of 6 hours a day. I live in the Midlands, and I'm coming from Derby to London to work. And that just wasn't working for me. I didn't see my family, I didn't see my husband, I didn't see anybody, So after a while, I just thought to myself, something has to give, and had to follow what I love doing, which is fitness. I will touch upon what specifically I do later on, but just to tell you my journey and how I got here, I left a really high-profile corporate job that was killing me on the inside to find my heart and to find exactly my happiness. And when I wake up in the morning, I want to wake up with, do you know what? I love what I'm doing, and it's not work, as opposed to, oh my God, it's Monday morning again, which is what I used to feel back in the day. And when you're traveling 300 miles round trip every day to work, it really gets you thinking, I can't no longer do this. So I will speak about what I do, a bit more of me, but thank you guys for switching in, and thank you so much for being here and the audience, and thank you very much, Raj, and the panel.
Right, fantastic. Thanks so much for your insights, Chris. Now, as we all know, I mentioned earlier that we're going through the COVID-19 pandemic right now, where the whole world has been turned upside down. Personal lives, with your businesses, your careers, your relationships, and of course, what we're discussing today, even our own personal health and overall mental well-being is affected. And we can see that there's a very strong underlying train of thought between what most of you have mentioned. It all starts in the mind. Before you can focus on the body, it all starts in the mind. So which brings me to this big question here right now. I'm sure our audience are also curious to find out, how did each of you, obviously we are all strong in certain respects, but of course we all have our inadequacies as well. So how did each of you cope through this very, very difficult period? Like for me, for example, I'm very passionate about health and wellness, and I like to think that I've led a generally healthy lifestyle. But even the pandemic got the better of me. I found it during lockdowns, being stuck at home, I found it very difficult to motivate myself to work out, to stay healthy and fit. And then the feeling of snacking, little by little, it started creeping in. Then my diet is also affected as well. So if someone like me has so much difficulty, whether it's self-discipline or a weak mindset, how do our audience or the average Joe on the street cope with this? And before we talk about that, I guess our audience would also like to know, how did each of you cope with all these challenges during the current pandemic? Stefan, what were the challenges you faced, and how did it affect your health and overall well-being?
In terms of the pandemic, for me, my experience and my fiance's experience was the complete opposite. So I really enjoyed the pandemic. I don't mean what it caused and what it created. I mean from my own perspective, because I'm a huge believer that if you have systems in place, when I say systems, I mean habits, day-to-day habits, and you can associate yourself with those habits and the benefit they bring, then it increase in importance. So I have healthy habits in place because I've worked on them for years. So my healthy habit became a stronger affinity for me. So I'm a huge believer that if you have habits, when you're backed into a corner, if they're positive habits, you have a greater attachment to them. So you do them more. If you have a negative habit, like you mentioned, Raj, about snacking, then you reach for that habit even more. So you latch on to things that you believe are helping you in that moment. And I'm a huge believer that you will benefit from instilling those good habits and working on them, or they will come back to bite you on the bum when you're backed into a corner, because you'll go more towards those habits, even though you know they're not helping you out. Does that make sense? In terms of, it becomes even more frustrating because they're highlighted. Now we've got nothing to do. The pandemic closed everything down. Now what do? When I'm bored, I just snack. So I'm bored, so I'll just snack, because you don't know any different, because that's what you attach boredom to, snacking. My experience was, I'm bored, so I'll just go and grab some water. I'll just go and exercise. I've got so much more time now. It's great. So I was so positive in lockdown, and myself and my fiance Rachel, we just bounced off each other with positivity, and we both had a really positive experience of the pandemic. It was quiet. The roads were quiet. The noise it just felt really peaceful. So it actually harnessed my inner power and drive to take care of myself. It's fantastic for me personally.
Right. Just to take away a few of the main points that you mentioned just now. So to have habits or a strong foundation is very, very crucial for you to stay the course and not obviously fall off by the wayside. And I guess the second bit you mentioned, which is also equally as important, is that support structure. You mentioned your fiance. So the fact that you had someone there to support you and vice versa as well, that is also very crucial in order to keep each other accountable, as well as to provide that support structure. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. So quite often friends would be contacting me, and I think we all may have experienced this. I was getting FaceTime calls from friends because we couldn't go out and see them. And the underlying narrative of some of those friends were that they couldn't do it. They couldn't manage it. They couldn't get through it positively because their habits weren't there. So they couldn't see the benefit of highlighting their healthy habits for themselves. And the friends and family members who had those habits in place could understand that it would only improve their day-to-day if they continued focusing on that. So if we came into the pandemic with negative habits that we associate with well-being, then like I said earlier, they just compounded them. So it became harder. But people are coming into the pandemic with positive habits for a day-to-day. I mean, sleep and nutrition and how they view alcohol and rest and exercise. It actually helped them and boosted their wellness throughout. So it was very much polarized from the people I was speaking to going through the pandemic. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. We will talk more in greater detail in our further down. I would like to hear what the others have to say. Kerry, what about yourself? How did you cope with the challenges of the pandemic over the last 18 months?
Thanks, Raj. I think I would agree with what Stefan said as well, because it actually helped me. So I think with my partner and I, it was similar to what Stefan and his partner went through as well. You know, we just kind of got into a relationship and then we kind of just built on it. For me, before the pandemic, I was anyway working out at home, and then I started going to the gym. And I think, you know, it's also about building habits, and my habits were just everyday routine, you know, fitness and work and just focusing on myself. And what the pandemic actually taught me was to focus on myself, you know, just you know, do a lot of self-reflection, you know, and also at the same time have a really good support system. For me, my support system was my boyfriend, and because my family is away, they're not in Malaysia, and the fact that I had to still be in touch with them and ask them how they are. And I'm not really an extrovert, I'm more of an ambivert, so for me it wasn't really a problem as such. And the pandemic actually forced me to get into good habits, especially eating habits. Like what Stefan said as well, when we're bored, we tend to eat a lot. And I was noticing in the beginning, when I was bored, I didn't know whether I was stress eating or I was eating out of boredom, but I was just eating. And then I would feel guilty, right? And then I would go for like this 1 hour jog, and I'll be like, why did I eat? Why did I have that McDonald's? Why did I have that? And then I had to tell myself, I'm like, you know what? I think you're just stressing too much. Just take a deep breath, focus on yourself. And if you're bored, maybe do something else. Maybe, get back to dancing, because I kind of completely left dance, at the backside. And then I started watching dance videos first, because for me, it's more like that's my motivating factor. Then I just got up and I danced, and then I would basically distract myself or use a positive reinforcement. I changed my diet, I changed my routine, my sleep patterns, everything. I would do so much of research, and I always kept myself busy. And I think the key is that I kept myself busy, and that's why I didn't really, go into bad habits anymore. I didn't go back to the bad habits. I think the only bad habit I had was binge watch Netflix. That was all.
I'm sure that applies to most of us.
Yeah. But then I realized even the shows I was watching was so different. It was more towards, either what I love to watch, which is basically brain related shows, or meditation. And yes, meditation also helped me, because that's something that I left while I was going through depression. I didn't meditate for almost 5 years, and the pandemic actually again forced me to. And I stayed away from negative news, because we all know that social media has this huge impact, and it did have a very bad impact, especially during the pandemic. And people would send me forwards of messages, this and this, and I'm like, I'm not interested. I've got my own thing to do. And the worst part was I would research it again until I came to a point where, I'm not wasting time on this. And I would actually tell people that, can you stop spreading these negative news, and can you tell me something nice? Just tell me how your day was. What did you do today? And to be honest, every one of them was on social media at that point. And that's of course, which I will talk about later. That's one of the reasons why, and what I preach in brain health as well, where I explain how technology and the brain, what the impact is and stuff like that. But yeah, that's basically how I coped in the pandemic. Thank you, Raj.
Well said, Carrie. I guess it's a state of mind. The pandemic has happened. That's a reality that all of us have to face. But it's our own personal decision or choice. How do we approach it? Whether to look at it positively or negatively. So it's in your actions at the end of the day. Anuar, what about yourself? You look like someone who's always out and about, and the pandemic would have literally, of course, would have really, really turned your world upside down. So how do you cope with it, and how did it affect your health and overall well-being?
Well, literally, I am out and about right now. Just out from my house in the car. See. Well, there's a commitment for GES this year. Okay, so yes, the struggle is real. We all have our own demons inside, and it was very difficult for me because I just started my fitness journey this year after a 2 years break, and I was doing a lot of muscle building. And without the gym, it's honestly quite difficult because home workouts are never the same. You don't have the equipment, you don't have the drive to finish the workout. So I was a lot of my time was in bed, playing with my phone and binge eating. I was binge eating a lot, but then it came to realization that okay, I have to stop this. And social media did play a good role in this matter because I was looking a lot of other people's Instagram postings and they all look good. And I felt threatened. I mean, in a positive manner because, if they can look good during this pandemic, why can't I? So I decided to go for jogs, and when I first started jogging, my body was sabotaging me. I was not pushing myself enough. My knees were hurting, my ankles were hurting, and after, if it's not even so long, it was just about for 2 or 3 weeks, I could go past the 2 km mark, then 3 km, then I could finish at 8 kilometers in less than an hour. So that was a huge achievement. So I guess, it's mind over matter. You just have to push yourself. The pandemic is not a hindrance for you.
Well said. I guess what you have just mentioned is personal self-achievements and milestones. When you hit certain milestones, it could actually positively motivate you to push even harder, because you get to see the results, the sense of achievement, and that personal joy that's derived from that. And it's an interesting thing you also just mentioned about social media. Social media is once again is a reality. Whether it's a double-edged sword, you can use it positively, positive reinforcement, like it did for you by looking at others. It motivates you to try to push yourself. Or it could be negative reinforcement in the sense that all the negativity, fake news, and all the bad bits about it, it can actually push you backwards as well. So it's end of the day up to you how you utilize it, or how you harness it, which is the bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah. Emma, yourself, your journey over the past 2 years during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Raj. Okay, how I cope myself during the pandemic, a lockdown from this health and wellness perspective. Okay, all right. Feeling overwhelmed by a lockdown and the need to suddenly adopt a few things in e platform, and then main thing like I can sit here is like keep connected and compassionate. So for this question, actually, I did prepare some tips which I would love to share with everyone here today, which I applied because when this pandemic happened, it's really give me an eye opener, especially on a lot of area. Beside fitness and others. So first thing first, the tips that I would love to share how I cope this pandemic for my health and wellness is like I manage my expectations. So do not underestimate the cognitive and emotional load that this pandemic brings, or the impact it will have on your productivity. So at least in the short term. So difficulty on concentrating, especially low motivation at first, and a state of distraction to be expected. I think not just me, all of us here. All right. So adaptation to the new normal will take some time for us at first. So what I apply is I go easy on myself as we settle into this new rhythm, of remote work, isolation from others. So we need to be realistic. So the keyword is realistic in the goal that we want to set. So both for ourselves and also other who in our charge. The second tips here is like proactively manage your threshold. So try to lay a solid foundation your mental health and well-being by prioritizing like what just now our panel are saying, talking about sleep, practice good sleep hygiene. Like for example, I'm reading the article saying that you need to avoid blue lights before bed and maintain a routine around your sleep and wake times. Not just that, we need to eat well, because the key when we talk about fitness, the first thing is about eat well. So we need to be conscious that you might be inclined to lean on alcohol or other indulgence to manage the stress. This is understandable, but potentially it will damage in a long run. All right. So other than that, when we talk about proactively manage here is exercise. So it will lower your stress level, help you better regulate your emotions. Without we realize, by like just now our panel Carrie saying, just actually start with walk and after that jogging. So without we realize, it regulate our emotion and improve your sleep. When we have a balanced exercise regularly, it's not so heavy. We can see that quality of our sleep getting improved. The third tips here is like you must know your red flags throughout this pandemic. One way to manage moment of distress is to identify the key thought of physical sensation, that tend to be contribute to our cycle of distress and feeling of being overwhelmed. Like for example, just now one of our key speakers saying, why can I concentrate? Sometimes coming feeling like frustration, worry, sadness. Talking about physical sensation, we become tension, upset stomach. Sometimes when we talk about upset stomach, it's not just because of wrong food or what, it's because of the feelings that we have to, and then jitters. So, and some action could be, all right, such as a compulsive checking. That just now one of our panel are saying, oh, we are very like keep on checking what is the COVID situation latest happen, what is the statistic now, what is my area is in a red spot, how this and that, like for example. So each fit into amplify this negative emotional spiral. So addressing one aspect of this loop by like for example, this is what I do, like for example, I do the breathing exercise. You breathe in 4 counts, hold 4, and after that all this breathing exercise to this one to de-escalate the cycle and help me to regain back the control. So that's how I breathe, and then come back to the word routine, as per other speakers are saying. Okay, routine become our friend throughout this pandemic situation. So it helps to manage our anxiety without we realize, and will help you to adapt more quickly to this current reality. So create clear distinction between work and non-work time. Like me myself is quite tough since I'm being a single mother, just 3 of us at home. I have to juggle between my work and my non-work time. So ideally in both physical workspace and my headspace, find something to do is not work and is not virus related, I can say, to bring joy to you yourself. All right, working in short bursts with clear breaks sometimes will help to maintain your clarity and thought. Like just now one of our panel are saying about dancing, small walk, run, just to maintain all this activity. And the 5 tips will be the be compassionate with yourself and others. So there is much that we cannot control right at this moment, at this new environment, but how we talk to ourselves during these challenging times can either provide a powerful buffer to these difficult circumstances or amplify our distress. So moment of feeling overwhelmed often come with big talk, such as I cannot do this, like what I said earlier, or this is too hard, how, especially like me myself, when all this pandemic, there is a lot of things, like for example, electrical part, all these east side, which is I'm not familiar with, it become a big challenges to me to do it by myself. So this is pandemic cause a lot of stress for many of us, I believe this, and we cannot be our best self at all time, that for sure, because we are human, we have up and down emotion, but we can ask for help, that's for sure, right? Reach out. So we have a lot of platform, like just now our panel are saying we can go to any online platform to go for expert. The main thing is like reach out for the help. And the 6 tips is like we need to maintain the connection. I believe everyone agree with this. Even though the most introvert of us need some sense of connection to others for our mental as well as our physical health. So many working groups have created virtual forums. Like today we are in a global empowerment summit. So contribute, or just like you can just sit back hearing all these motivation talk, enjoy the chatter. So beside that, I think the staff teams at work instigate virtual coffee group to make sure that they can have that connection. All right. And we are in a social isolation, so I think this is not really stopping us to connect with each other, even though like even today I can connect with UK, with other country, to make sure that we are not feel alone. So reach out to those who might be particularly isolated and give the hands to them. All right. The last tip is manage uncertainty by staying in present, take each day as it comes and focus the things that you can't control. Yeah, you can control. So mindfulness and meditation, as per what just now one of our speakers are saying, can be great tools at this moment. So this will probably be a stressful time for all of us, and we've been tested the mental health. So like more of the practice of research by the institute also say that is the testing much else in the world. Yeah. So by embracing good mental health and well-being measure, all right, and being relying on others, like what I said earlier, when necessary, we can protect ourselves and those around us. So this are the tips that I would love to share and how I overcome all these situations throughout this pandemic. Yeah, that's from me.
Right, great. Thanks, Emma, for sharing. So it's about state of mind, mental health. That's the most crucial bit. If you get it right up here, then it makes a lot of things else much easier to cope with, especially during these challenging times. Christiana, what about yourself? What were the challenges and how do you cope with it in the UK?
Wow. So I think for me, like Stefan, the pandemic has been a blessing in disguise. And I will tell you what I mean by that. So imagine this. I had a business before the pandemic hit. You know, I'd been in this industry for 9 years. I had no social media. All of my work was word of mouth, recommendation. When the pandemic hit, and also face-to-face personal contact, my business shut down overnight, literally. You know, so like I said, prior to that, there was no social media. I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't using LinkedIn, had no Instagram, nothing at all. So imagine when you go through that, you're thinking, oh my God, I've just been shut down overnight, right? I went to bed with a business. I woke up with no business. For me, what is key, and I'm going to second what Stefan said. For my personal life, I've always practiced 5 things. Remaining away from, you know, any negative social media, anything. The reason I wasn't on social media was it just didn't interest me. It just didn't interest me. You know, most of my clients were like, are you on social media? You're not on Facebook. We've been looking for you. You're not there. I'm like, yes, there's a reason. I'm just not interested, right? So I have a habit of breathing first thing in the morning, meditating, you know, avoiding these things, eating well, physical fitness. Actually, from going back to my fitness and my sports days, I've always been an outdoor person. You know, all of my training, it wasn't until I got into the industry that I learned how to use fitness equipment, because that wasn't something that I did, right? So I was always outdoor. Literally, I can work out with a tree. That was my thing. And I taught my clients how to work out in any space without equipment, without anything. So in case you were stranded somewhere, you can actually look after yourself, right? So when the pandemic came along, I just focused on what I've always done, you know, to keep a healthy mind. One big thing for me is no matter what happens in my life, I have to retain a sound mind. That for me personally is really important, because without a sound mind, your body isn't sound, your body isn't well. And so that was really important to me, to ensure that I was looking after myself, you know, connecting with family, spending time with my husband. And the reason I said it's the blessing in disguise was because previously I'd been doing so many sessions, classes here and there, was everywhere. The pandemic came along and I decided that this is time for me to kind of re-evaluate, you know, what direction the business was going, where I wanted to be, and having people actually connect with me personally to say, how can I help them? And just connecting with people, I think that's so important. Often when we're busy, we don't take the time out, you know, to support or to remember or just to hear people out. Pandemic for me was really about doing that, was actually reconnecting and just reaching out, you know, to friends, to family, to clients. You know, I had the time to kind of ring clients and say, how are you doing? You know, how are things for you? But for me personally, it was literally about just remaining focused. My mental health is really important to me. Haven't been at the root of, you know, running around like a headless chicken, as we would say over here, right? So pandemic came along and I was just, you know what, I'm breathing, I'm loving this. It sounds awful. I'll tell you what I did. I jumped on social media, right? The first 4 weeks the pandemic hit over here, I jumped on social media. I wanted to understand what social media was all about. And I'll be honest in saying, it took me in the opposite direction. I ran away from it because I was like, oh my God, this is a digital jungle, right? How do people do this? I'm still learning social media up until now, 18 months or so later. I did all the research. I consumed so much information. And what that does is it does send you on a negative path if you're not careful. So what I did was came back away from it and just refocused and took it one step at a time. So I'm saying this to say that anyone who is currently watching this, would know that the first thing our body does is react. Everything we think about, everything that happens to us is in the brain. It begins in the mind, whether it's self-negative talk that we tell ourselves. And you mentioned, Emma, I can't this and I can't that, and so on and so forth. It's about stepping back and saying, actually, how do I take this in bite-sized chunk? And for me, that's what I did last year. Even though I had a good practice of eating well, of exercising. In fact, I created a gym at home, at-home gym, right? Just so I can have options of using the gym at home and going to my park. Another thing as well, I'm sure you will appreciate this, Stefan, is in the UK, we have, if you live in a city, cars and hustle and bustle is all you hear. I loved the sound of my own footsteps in the pandemic. That's the reason why it's a blessing in disguise for me, because I could hear myself when I walked on the street, on the road. There were no cars. there were no cars around, right? It was so blissful. And I really just wanted to say to anyone who still in the pandemic, who's have a lockdown, just take it one step at a time. If you're not used to working out and you want to start working out, take the time to go outdoors. Just see what's new in your area. Think of it as an adventure as opposed to a workout, because we tend to build up things in our minds and we think, oh my God, it's pressure, I can't do this, or I don't know what to do. Take it as you're going on an adventure, one step at a time. Go outside, have a look at your surroundings, see exactly what has changed, what hasn't changed. Find new buildings or what's closed. Like over here where I'm based, when pandemic came along, it was like ghost town. I was learning about my local area all the time. That's one way. So by the time you know it, you've actually walked a good mile or two without realizing it. That in itself is exercise without you really doing exercise, right? I call it killing two birds with one stone, not literally, not literally, right? So I think that's really important. So for me, I go through the pandemic by just really pulling back, reviewing, reevaluating, self-regulating and understanding how do I move forward, especially with my business shutting down overnight. How do I move forward? How do I take care of people around me? How do I now, I suppose it's a reinvention of yourself at the same time. It was just really important. So my tips are just focus. When you wake up in the morning, take the time for yourself, whether it's 5 minutes throughout the day, each time times 3, or whether you want to do it in chunks. So meditate if that's what you choose to do. Another thing that I really I'm proactive about is breathing. I will come to the reason why it's important later on, once we discuss. Breathing for me was something that I had to use to keep my mental health. One, because it really energizes you. 2, it gets oxygen through the body. It calms the mind down. There's so many uses of breathing. I mean, proper breathing. So there are different levels of breathing, right? So it's about understanding that and understanding what your triggers are that gets you to the point of heightened situation or heightened feelings. Okay, so that being said, I'm now here at this point, and I think that if you've got a good habit, continue good habits. If you haven't got good habits, break it into smaller chunks. Try to just do one thing at a time, or something different once a day. Challenge yourself and see what you can do. If you're struggling, if all else fails, reach out for help. Always ask for help. This is so important. My social media, non-savviness, I've had for so many help for so many people. I'm still on that journey. So we're all here and we're all connected somewhere or another. And that's what I have to say.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's all about baby steps, right? Baby steps, small milestones. And of course, one positive thing about this pandemic, it gets people to slow down and perhaps smell the roses, take stock of the situation, reevaluate life, and realize that outside of all the noise, the hustle and bustle, there's actually so much more to it. So I guess it's once again all in the mindset. Now we're going to move on to the health and wellness bit, and this one I think I'd like to pose to still to Christiana as well as Stefan. Anuar mentioned something very interesting just now about the minute the pandemic hit, and obviously he can't go to the gym. Gym provides you all the equipment and all the basic stuff that helps you, especially for a guy, in terms of the heavy workout kind of thing. Now, given that situation, if Anuar was your client or someone who has come to you for advice, what would you advise him in order to overcome the fact that he doesn't have access to the gym, but he still would like to maintain that level of intensity of that workout to give him that desired results that he's always been getting when he was working out at the gym? I'll go to Stefan first. What would your advice be to him?
Stefan, you're muted.
Sorry, your mic. Yeah, you're muted.
Thanks, Raj. It's initially about understanding what the individual thinks is the block to them doing the thing that they want to do. So we're talking, as Anuar mentioned, he felt there was a block because the gym was closed. Now, it's understanding why he doesn't feel he's able to exercise. So asking the question about what the block is, then you can answer the exact question as to why he's struggling, rather than just giving someone, this is a plan you need to do. The gym's closed. This is what you need to do then. If the person can't associate with the plan that you've given them, they'll take it and they might try it, and then it'll just go in the bin or the metaphorical bin in the mind. For me personally, it was asking people, what is the block? Well, I'm used to going to the gym and using weights. What are you wanting to achieve? So there's got to be for me personally, there had to be a logical route to take someone down with questioning and asking them why they perceive there's a difficulty for them to continue exercising and getting the results. So Christiana mentioned about setting up a little gym at home. Now, a little gym at home could just be a couple of water bottles and a mat or a space. So you could exercise and put exercises together with things you can find around the house as a resistance weight. But the best thing you can use as a resistance weight is yourself. So it becomes really simple when you lay out some steps for them to take that they can familiarize themselves with in order to replace what they feel is familiar to them with someone that is convenient to them, and quite often more convenient than driving to a gym, because now they've not got to drive to a gym. They can dedicate a small area in their house or flat for that exercise session. So for me, Raj, it's about helping someone understand why they feel it's a block because the gym is closed, and then answering that question for them and giving them the steps to take. All right. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yep, definitely makes sense. It's all about improvising, assessing the situation, and finding ways to get around that, but yet still meeting the objectives that you were looking at. Chris, is there anything you'd like to add to that, given the fact that you also are from the industry as well?
Yes. So I think I agree with what Stefan has said, but I would also add in saying that from my point of view, I work from a holistic approach. So looking at everything with, the client. So I would say to Anuar, in terms of the fitness, for me, I'm looking at what is it you enjoy first of all, because I can give you a program to go and do. But what if you don't enjoy any of those things? What if it's something that you don't feel akin to? So it's really understanding holistically, not just the block alone, but what is the situation right now? What did you try before? Why didn't it work? And what are you doing right now? And look at a program that really allows him to have enjoyment and fulfillment in there. We can later on look at other things we can add on, but we've got to start from a point where he can actually keep up with what he's doing, starting it small, enjoying what he's doing first before I introduce different things to him. So I agree with the gym. You can make a gym. I mean, you can work in any space. Stefan, you know this. You can work out in a matchbox if you chose to, really, from my point of view, But I would say to Anuar, definitely let's have a look at what, not just the blocks alone, but what is it right now that is stopping you. I would look at even down to your home life, whether your availability, because sometimes we have ourselves, our emotional, mental things we're going through. That in itself could be a block as to why we're not achieving or not able to, think of other ways to work out. So I would definitely go down the holistic approach and give you smaller steps in what you actually enjoy doing, whether it's walking, as I mentioned earlier. You could actually go for a walk, exploring your local area. That in itself is exercise. We can start with that, and then at home we can say, okay, let's get you to do, if you're used to doing press ups, because I remember teaching my clients, and some people can do, a few of my clients could not do press ups. Now, press ups or push ups or burpees and all these things that we do. Some people say, what is that? I don't want to do that. It looks painful. It looks this, and it's about, okay, what do you enjoy doing? What can you do? Let's be realistic about it. Let's see what you will actually participate in, because if I give you that you're enjoying, it motivates you to continue to do it with my guidance. If I give you a program and for you to go and do it, if you're not motivated, you won't continue that. That becomes a barrier, a block in itself. So, Anuar, when we talk, I will be saying to you, let's look at exactly what you enjoy doing first.
Okay, very, very good advice. Carrie, this is something I want to put to you because you are our resident brain health expert here. So obviously we were talking about it. It all starts up here in the brain. So on a more deeper level, is there something that individuals or society itself, which is happening up here, that prevents us from doing what we want to do or ought to do? Could there be something on more at play, working on a deeper level that's preventing us from doing that?
Yes, don't think too much. I mean, jokes aside, overthinking actually is a good point. Right now we are entering into, the so-called new normal, which, to be honest, I don't like using that word, but because everyone else uses it. Now we're just so focused into, okay, we've got to change it this way. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. Mental health is very important, and that's something that people have woke up during the pandemic, whereas we have been talking about it before the pandemic. Even when it comes to exercise, I think you'd notice, when you're stressed and you go for a jog, you don't feel the same result as to when you're not stressed and you go for a jog. When you come back, you still feel frustrated. You're like, oh, I just want to get that energy out, and it's not out yet. Why? Because mentally you are still disturbed. So it's not a compulsion that, and it's not also that just because you're feeling frustrated and you're not mentally there, you need to go for a jog and it will, your dopamine levels or your serotonin levels will increase. It doesn't work like that. How it works is, okay, breathe, like what Christiana also said, breathing is so important. And the right way of breathing. We always talk about breathing, but are you really breathing the right way? You've got to ask yourself that as well. Take one step at a time. If you can't go jogging, it's fine. Do yoga. Yoga also helps. Meditate. And even when we talk about exercise, I think most of us during the pandemic have started doing housework on our own. So even mopping and sweeping and all of that is a form of exercise. I'm not saying it would burn the same calories, as maybe doing HIIT or anything, but you're still doing something. You're still moving around, which means your brain is still active. Your brain, your cognitive functions, your motor skills, you're still using them, and it all starts here, yes. But, apart from the brain, it's also your mindset. Have you changed your mindset during the pandemic, or are you still living in the negativity? Are you still drowning in negativity? And are you craving for it? Because I know some people crave for negativity because they feel like, I can't be happy, because if I'm happy, there's something wrong. We look at people and some of us are like, how can you be so positive? How can you be all the time happy? Is there nothing wrong in your life? I mean, so what? So what if there's nothing wrong? Why are you looking for something wrong just because you think that's your definition of perfection? It's not. If you're happy, you're just happy. Leave me alone. If I'm happy, I'm happy. That's it. Don't put in negativity into me because you think that's the definition of perfection and that's how it's supposed to be. So I think we just need to understand that we have to just stop sometimes and do nothing. Do absolutely nothing. You don't have to be so productive every day. You don't have to push yourselves every day. You just need to stop and maybe daydream. Maybe just look into space, just do nothing for some time and not think about anything. And then you will start to realize that you are actually just clearing your mind. You know, when we talk about meditation, we're just clearing our mind. You just have to clear your mind. That's it. And then you will start being able to realize that, yeah, okay, I can start thinking, and I think thoughts that I want to think. You know, everything has its pros and cons. Even too much fitness is not good. Even too much social media, too much of anything is a killer. So it's about what you are comfortable with. I'm not going to say what is right or what is wrong. It's not about that. It's about what you want. It's about what your comfort level is. If you want more love, go ahead, go out, seek more love. And apart from reaching out to help, right? I think it's important we start helping people, because to be honest, people who have severe mental illnesses, like even depression or suicide, they would not reach out for help because they're not in that mindset. I'm saying it because of, I've had personal experience. We don't like reaching out for help. So how about you help someone, and you will notice that in return, you're actually kind of helping yourself as well. When you start talking to people and you start helping them, you start opening up to them, you are in turn helping yourself. So I think it's apart from the fact that, yes, we need to reach out to people if we need help, but that's when we're kind of stopping. There is a slight block there, because for us to reach out to someone, we need to find that someone. And I'm not talking about psychologists, I'm not about psychiatrists. I'm just talking about the support system, your loved ones. And oftentimes we don't do that because we don't want to burden our loved ones. We say reach out, but we don't want to. So it's more about, okay, if you are living with your partner, how about just asking your partner, how was your day? What did you do today? Questions like this will get the person to open up. And I think from a fitness point of view, whether it's brain fitness or whether it's physical fitness, how about working together with your family, work out with your partner, even work out with your child? Take your child out, play football, play basketball, play whatever you want, but start playing, start exercising with your child. Just do push-ups with your child. I'm sure that there's no harm in that, and you're still doing something physically, and you're also building the connection with your child. And your child's not 24/7 on his iPad or iPhone, and you're taking your child away from technology. So yeah, that's pretty much what I would love to
Makes
share.
no sense. So Emma, you mentioned just now you were a single mother of two. So is that something do you engage in quite actively with your kids as well, in terms of physical activity and doing things together while having a good workout at the same time?
Yeah, throughout this pandemic, nothing much that we can do at home. The exercise, like when you do your exercise, your kids like, hey, what you are doing, mom? So like we call together and do the exercise together. Nothing much that we can do at home, especially because different peoples have a different capacity of how the house look like, right? So like me myself, we are not staying in a very big house, have place to do this and that. So most of the time, like we just turn on the YouTube, we do Zumba from there, and then my class workout. So to occupy my kids with that kind of activity. So this is how I do. So the fitness start like most of our panel are saying here is always start with you. It's not matter what equipment that you have in your house. It's like you want to get into it, then you can just do it.
Right. It's about improvising with whatever you have at home and making it a fun activity with the kids as well, family activity. Coming back to Anuar, just to take it a step back, obviously we will heard what Christiana, Stefan, as well as Kerry has said. Did it make sense to you? Is that something that triggered something in your head right now that maybe might need to change, tweak a little bit of the outlook to stop that blockage?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the advice and recommendations. I've applied what you guys have said when I was having that mental block. It was actually all a mental block all along because, as I said earlier, it's always mind over matter. So, yes, I did reach out to a good friend, and we decided to go for jogs like 4 times a week. But then we get to understand our neighborhood better, found really nice places to hang out. And it was an eye opener really. And after that, we started doing those pull-ups at the bar, and basically, so there is always a solution to every problem. And then I started, to eat healthily, less ordering in, more cooking and all that. So yes, it's
Excellent.
always mind over matter. Yeah. And now the gyms are
That's great.
open, so I'm so happy. I'm so pleased.
Yep.
Yahoo!
Fantastic. So yeah, that's a big bonus. Now, Anuar, earlier you were alluding to with regards to your introduction is that you create fashion designs because there's always a linkage effect. People want to look good, and of course, one way to look good is of course being healthy, staying fit. So obviously, you have the desired body type or body shape, and of course, one way you can accentuate that look is through your fashion designs. Now, how successful were you in terms of using that as a motivational factor for your potential clients to achieve that desired results?
Okay, well, basically, I started with men's garment because I feel easily connected to that because I've always liked the slender look, the very built manly look. So with my fashion campaign, I used a lot of all these very fit models, but not necessarily muscle builders. They just have to be fit. So it gives them I portray this image so that to look that way, you have to be healthy. So then I started having clients who are like, okay, I want to lose weight to wear Anuar Faizal. So that was very rewarding for me. And I had clients who are ladies who comes to and say, Anuar, please make me look thin, please make me look tall. I'm not a magic worker. I don't have a magic wand that can change any dress to make you look thin. But what I can do for you is I can advise, perhaps, we will do a dress that looks for you, that fits you well this time. But towards the future, you can work harder to achieve the desired goal. So then you can start to wear all this fancy or sexy dresses, as you call it, that you want. So I feel happy that I get to motivate people this way.
Yep. That's great. That's great. So it's a cause and effect. So when they look good and they wear your clothing, your fashion, they feel good, and that motivates them even more to maintain it and
when they reach the goal. Yeah, when they reach the goal, they start wearing lesser.
And then
so that's always the case.
And then you have to innovate and come up with new fashion. Yeah, fantastic. That's a very good point as well.
That's why I have a basic garments now.
Well said. Carrie, I understand that you have to leave our panel right now for a very important meeting. Before you head off, is there any words of wisdom? Perhaps one thing that our audience or viewers can start doing tomorrow itself, a simple thing that can get them in that right direction, start their journey in that right direction, in respect to perhaps maybe mental health, because that's something that sounds very close to your heart.
You do have the wisdom, so work on yourself. I don't really focus on words of wisdom because all of us have wisdom in us. I would just say, don't be too hard on yourself. I know times are changing, but you have to take a breather. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a lawyer, fitness instructor, dancer, whoever you are. Because if you don't love yourself and if you don't focus on yourself, you may not be able to also support the people around you. You may not be able to show the same love. And just be there, be there for people. Your presence is all that matters. And kindness, compassionate, everything. Sometimes just give yourself a hug. I do that all the time. Just wake up and just hug myself or hug my cat because I love my cat a lot.
Well said. Small things, little things make such a big difference, big positive difference.
Exactly, it does. You don't have to just fly really high. It's just these little things that I think we've kind of forgotten, and it's not something that wasn't instilled in us. I think we've been too much into this whole pandemic thing and relationships and all of that we've kind of forgotten these small things. So yeah, just hug yourself, be kind, and yes, please be happy. It's okay. You're not going to be a psychopath if you're going to be happy. But
that's right.
And it's okay to be happy.
Each person has their own definition of happiness, right? What could make you happy may not be something that makes someone else. So as long as it works for you at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Okay, fantastic. Gary,
Thank
thank you
you,
so
Raj.
much for your time, for joining
Thank you.
us
Thank
on
you,
this panel
everyone.
and sharing your valuable insights. Okay, you take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care, Gary.
Bye-bye.
Okay, fantastic. So now moving on back to the UK, Stefan, something I would like to put to you. Now, obviously, you work very closely with perimenopausal and menopausal women in terms of their fitness and health journey. Now, when a woman comes up to you and asks you, but you're not a woman, you cannot feel or truly understand what I am going through, what I'm feeling, because you are incapable of feeling or experiencing it in the truest sense. So how do you address that kind of objection from your perspective?
From my perspective, Raj, the brain works exactly the same in men and women in terms of how we process information. Physiology works exactly the same in both men and women. If we're talking about the deepest level of health at a cellular level, we all work the same. We all function the same. So when I'm talking to women, I can connect because I've been through and still struggle with my own self-identity. I've had times where I've been through and I haven't liked myself, but on the outside, it's all roses, it's all sunshine on the outside, and on the inside, I don't really want to share that with anybody. So you put up a facade to deflect any incoming questions. So if you walk around looking and appearing like everything's okay, everyone will assume everything's okay. And when I talk to women, that's what they tend to do, is that they put up a facade that everything's okay. Now, it can be a physical. So if you're talking about why they might assume that I don't understand, is because our anatomies are different. And that's the only thing. No, I can't experience what a woman goes through for childbirth. No, I can't experience what a woman will go through during perimenopause in terms of the physiology. No, I can't. But what drives your outcome is how you perceive it, how you perceive the situation you're going through. So if you can perceive the situation differently or positively, or ask questions of yourself as to whether that's actually true or you've created that truth for yourself, then I help them navigate that in a way that they can come out of the negative situation feeling better about themselves. So it's breaking down barriers by sharing my vulnerability with life, that I've been through those downs, but also the ups. So coming together like that means that they can have and generate some sort of trust, and we generate a relationship based on our struggles, because I think that's what a lot of people do. We generate relationships based on what we have struggled with in our own lives, and it only gets stronger from that point. So that's how I approach the situation, because clearly I'm not a woman that's ever going to go through perimenopause.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason why I posed that question. And Christiana, you being a woman yourself, would that be something that you're comfortable with? Like perhaps seeing a man, Stefan, for example, who will be able to help you in that journey of yours to overcome the struggles that you're facing?
Absolutely. I think the important thing is, and Stefan, you probably, I don't know if you subscribe to this, but everyone who is a coach or psychiatrist or counselor, anyone who does, these types of things, I'm a firm believer that anyone who is a coach needs their own coach, their own mentor, and so on and so forth. And mine happens to be a male, actually. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. We may not have that physiology doesn't allow us to understand in that way, but our brain works in terms of thinking to a certain degree, Stefan, not completely. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But essentially, we think kind of relatively, we can imagine and we can place ourselves in either a man's or or woman's, point of view and try to get understanding, because it's empathy, understanding, and asking questions, right? So my mentor or my coach himself would always ask that question: what is it you want to achieve? I'll give you a little snippet of my personal struggle with my hip. So I've had 2 hip surgeries. I will talk about this in my interview later on this month. But it was such a struggle for me, and from a mental point of view, I necessarily didn't necessarily want a woman. I wanted a man who had the strength, who had the strength to work with me, but to push, but also to physically push down on my hip. So that's part of my work, and that's part of my training, and that's part of my survival, to ensure that as a coach myself, I'm keeping well for myself. So working with a man isn't an issue for me because I have that now. And I think it's important sometimes to understand that, not every female will be able to work with another female because they may require something different. And it's important that when you find what works for you, it doesn't matter who they are, whether male or female, if it works and you're happy and you're comfortable and you're confident, or your confidence grows in the process, then that's what's really important. So yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I think it'd be interesting to find out from the audience themselves, just really, what have they tried? What's worked for them? What do they prefer? To work with, male or female. It'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yep. Well said there. So yeah, as what Christiana just mentioned, yeah, for our audience, if you have any comments or any feedback to share, we would love to hear your story as well. Or if you have any burning questions that you would like to pose to any of our panelists here, yeah, please feel free to do so in the comment section. And Emma, you being a woman as well, what's your thoughts on that? In terms of perhaps being guided or coached by Stefan as well. Your mic is off, I think. It's on mute.
Okay. All right. Talking about this, like too early or too late to work, being healthiest, is always like start with you. Too early or too late to work towards this is always start with you. So always remember that you are the one thing, in this world, right? Above all other things. This is what are the things that I have in my mindset. All right. So remember that you must prioritize yourself first. That you must always never give up. Yeah. So if you like talking about success, there is a lot part of success that we can achieve. So if you are stay in your comfort zone, like for example, so that's the reason we cannot see any growth from that. So when we feel comfortable and there is no growth that we can see. So when we talk about success in any field that we want to achieve, it's not a comfortable procedure. So it's always uncomfortable. So like for example, that I can put this situation is like if you want to get your 6-pack or your ideal weight or whatsoever, is always the answer will be uncomfortable. Like me myself, last time was 78 kg. 78 kg. For me to dream back to get my 48 kg within 3 months, and then it sounds like not achievable, because I get to use and comfortable in kind of the routine, So for me to change that is really uncomfortable. So this uncomfortable bring me to the success of what I want. So if you want to be a successful in any, so it sounded negative, the word pressure, but you need to put that in yourself, to push yourself to to do it, because if you feel comfortable and denial, it's very difficult for you to see the changes on that. Like come back to the point that I said, you cannot see any changes if you feel comfortable in that zone. All right, so you need to feel uncomfortable, then you can reach that success. Like fitness is not being better than someone else. Maybe like we can put our ideal, like for example, me myself, I love Jennifer Lopez. I can put my Jennifer Lopez as my idol. But remember, it's about being always put in my head, it's like I just want to be better than me. That's all. If I put that, how I want to put that fight with Jennifer Lopez, it's very hard, right? So if we think in that manner, so that's the reason sometimes we put the word excuse for us to reach that success. So what I do in myself is like I fight to be me, and I want to look better than me. So I just put like, I just want to be better than myself used to be before. So yeah, I able to make it. My last success will be like last time at 25 age, 25 years old, I hitting 48 kg and come back at this age with 2 kids. I able to get back my ideal weight 48 kg and with my 4-pack. So I'm very happy for that.
Well said. Yeah, it's all about discomfort. As you say, the path less traveled is always the most challenging, because the easy way is always be the one where you won't see the results or the negative aspects of it. Now we have a question from Jagatisvari, and since we have a mom in the picture here, she asked, what's the opinion about school-going kids with virtual sessions, which is difficult for them? So like your kids are obviously at home, they can't go to school. So how is it for them? How is it for you? And how is it in terms of their activities? Because they can't move about, they can't run around, and they're stuck indoors. So your thoughts, Emma?
Okay, yeah. For this question, every parents have different capabilities to have about this virtual school. For my opinion, different capability have different understanding on this. Like me myself, I'm talking. It's very very tough, because me myself have to work in virtual, and my kids also need to be virtual. Both of them need to be in virtual school. So it's really challenging for me myself, and at a different age of group of children also, their adaptation to virtual platform is not the same. Like for example, I have 2 kids. So one is 5 years, another one is 8 years. So the 5 years I still need to guide, which I unable to guide all the time, because I do have my work need to attend. And talking about my 8 years daughter, yes, she can able to do it, but still need to be guided. So like what I say, it depends on the situation. So some parents, they do have maybe like extra assistant. Like me myself, I don't have that extra assistant, so I really need the actual school to be back. So the challenges will be a little bit different. And I think for me myself, at this group of age children, they still need the actual learning way. Yeah, so they still need the classroom. Yeah, what can I say?
So you get a bit more personal time as well to do your own thing. Okay,
Yeah.
we are down to like our last 10 minutes now. So we want to go to the gist of it. We have two of you who are obviously very much in industry. So Christiana, for example, now that you have shared a little pre-COVID-19, how you've been operating your business and all during the COVID. Now moving forward, what are the challenges, or what are the new tools or ways that you have gone about to move forward with regards to fitness, health, and of course your own business as well?
Right. So I think for me, it's really looking at what's out there. So like I said, when the pandemic hit, everything shut down. I had to learn that the internet, Zoom has been perfect. Now what we're seeing, the trends are a lot of people got used to in the pandemic, virtual workouts, making sure that, they're tuned in, they use YouTube, they use all kinds of different apps at the moment, and different fitness trends going forward. Going forward for my business, I really have to focus on both online and offline. Yes, the UK is opened, for business, so we can go to the gyms, we can do different things, but it's about finding the balance, striking the balance between online and offline, and making sure that I serve the clients. So again, the client group I work with is couples, making sure that couples are coming through and working with me, both online and offline, and just ensuring that going forward that we use different. I was reading this the other day in terms of, the expectation going forward in 2022, to 2025, the trends that are coming up, in terms of different materials or different equipments that we're using. We've seen people like companies like Peloton, who have been instrumental in keeping people in the pandemic, still working out from home, having competitions within their the apps and system, and encouraging and motivating people. So from my perspective, it's really focusing on what's happening out there, keeping research going, so doing my own research and ensuring that I am keeping on top of social media and the trends that are up and coming, especially in the pregnancy space, which is my work, and ensuring that I can continuously motivate my clients group and bring them something new and fresh all the time.
You mentioned about customers of yours where you focus in terms of those who are going through pregnancies. What was your inspiration to target this specific niche market?
I think, like I mentioned, at the beginning, I've been doing so many different things. I've been doing so many different things, from teaching, boot camps to, to circuit, to one-on-one, to just an array of things, bombs, legs, and toms. And I think, Stefan, if you're in the UK, you will understand what bombs, legs, and toms are, and do all of those things. But what was happening was I had women who were coming to me and asking, can you help us with, this, that, and the other, losing weight, or I've got this baby weight to lose. Can you help me, lose it? I've had this experience with pregnancy. Is there anything that you can do, or do you do any other sessions anywhere else? And that kept happening. But what really got me to really focus on this was last year, my own personal experience with this journey. Prior to the pandemic, I've been teaching strength balance conditioning for older people on falls prevention. So it got me, to kind of really stop and think, okay, I'm getting a lot of people asking about this. We're going through so much in the pandemic when it came to pregnancy, and I don't mean just women alone, but couples didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go or where to get information from. And that kind of started my thought process of, if I'm going through this situation, this journey, how can I use this to help other people? How can I use this to really support, those who perhaps may not have the right information, perhaps are struggling with their mental health in terms of a pregnancy space. So the self-negative talk that we have, and also it was mostly people from the ages of 35 and over. What we forget is, as we get older, women especially are settling down even now in this day and age. Later and later in life, those who are choosing to have children are looking at careers and so many different reasons as to why they're settling down from 35 and above. And what they were experiencing was the negativity coming from even the professionals themselves. And so I'll be asked questions as to, how can you help, and is there anything you can advice you can give us, and how we prepare for conception, or if I've had a failed attempt here, and so on and so forth. So that's how my journey began. Again, a journey that I would speak about on the 28th of October during my interview. I'll get to tell my own story personally on how I overcame that. So that's how it began. It really, for me, was just really listening. And I think sometimes when you have a space, had the pandemic not happened, I wouldn't have stopped and really listened and had that opportunity. I mean, I was run by women all the time, but I was going around and like headless chicken working with my client group. But the pandemic meant I had to stop and really refocus and tune more into people, and gain a better understanding of what people were wanting, what services, what help and support they needed. Because in the pandemic, that wasn't happening. Simple thing, for example, is when people have prenatal, antenatal classes, there was none of that happening. Physically, where they can walk in to a center physically here in the UK and be able to attend that, to give them peace of mind and support. And for me, the opportunity was to say, actually, we can just talk through. So I did a lot of Zooms last year, if I'm being honest with you, and this year. I'm feeling a little bit of zoomed out, but for me, it's part of why I'm here. I feel like this is my purpose, to be able to support others, but also, in addition to that, is focusing on the men, because often in this space, the women are focused because they carry the baby, they carry the child, but the men are forgotten sometimes because they're just there. They're there to support, but they too go through mental health. They too have those dreams, and it's about really focusing on and being able to support both parties to have a healthy, sustainable relationship, as well as a child.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. The man plays a big role in the whole situation as well during the childbirth process. Thanks so much for that. And now moving on back to you, Stefan. That this terminology, this concept of big wheel of health. Can you just elaborate a bit more about that concept that you're currently espousing?
Yeah, thanks, Raj. The big wheel of health for me is that when people begin to follow a health and wellness journey, the thing that they'll want to do first is exercise or think about eating better. So that's the first port of call for somebody. If you just focus on eating and exercising, so what comes to mind when people think about eating healthier? Generally, it's eating less. And when they think about exercise, it's exercising more. So people go into the journey thinking they need to eat less and exercise more. That's the typical message that the industry puts out. Just eat less, exercise more, and you'll lose weight. The equation isn't that simple, because if it was, every single diet on the planet would work, and they don't, unfortunately. The statistics are huge. So 97, 98% of diets don't last beyond 4 weeks. So the big wheel of health for me incorporates nutrition. Yes, it incorporates movement, activity, and exercise. Incorporates how we have a relationship with alcohol or sleep or water and keeping ourselves hydrated. The big wheel of health also incorporates our relationships with partners or friends or family members or colleagues at work, and also our relationship with ourselves. So for me, the big wheel of health, when we are turning all of those dials up and down, dependent on our schedules, our work commitments, our family commitments. So for example, Raj, if someone's having a really busy work week, then I encourage people to turn up the self-care. So both Christiana and Carrie were talking about breathing and breathing properly. So bringing in techniques that only take 30 to 60 seconds to be able to focus on their breathing whilst having a busier work week, turning up that self-care button and turning down the exercise button, because exercise is only it's fantastic, but it's another stressor. It's a physical stressor of the body, which impacts how the body utilizes fat as a fuel source. So it's super important to be able to guide people, not just give them a program and say, this is how much you must exercise, this is how many calories you must eat, because calories really don't make any sort of sense. Because you can have a croissant and a salmon fillet, both have the same calorie count, and they do completely different things. So when I'm looking at the big wheel of health, it's all about, when I'm super busy, what do? I turn up this dial and I can turn down this one, and I can feel less pressure from having to sustain exercising for 30 to 45 minutes a day. How do I fit that into my schedule if I've no concept of self-care, or I've no concept of how important sleep is in order to help me waking up feeling more energized? But not just that, how I wake up without food cravings throughout the day. So our sleep impacts heavily on how we crave food the next day. So it's really important for people to understand the connection. For me personally, and I share that with people, it's more than exercise. In fact, I discourage people from exercising in the first 2 weeks of working together. I say, don't exercise. And that's the first thing that they do, is they go, what? I thought you were a trainer. And I go, yeah, I am. Don't exercise. And I explain why. So if you're looking at creating a lasting change that impacts your health from a cellular level upwards, stop exercising and eat more. That's what I say. Eat more and exercise less. Because the well-known way of eating less and exercising more. How did that work for you last time? Well, it didn't work. How many times have you tried that? That's all I do. And it's just like, why go through the same? I've done the same thing. Personally, I've had experiences where I've tried to apply the same habit to something and expect a different outcome. It doesn't work. So if you do the same thing over and over again, you get the same result.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's my big wheel of health thinking is that.
Stefan, can I just jump in as you finish? That's amazing. I was just listening to you and laughing to myself. You know, I think people look at me, especially when I'm in a public space or public place or go see friends. But those who know me know that I'm a big eater. Now I'm about 5'1". People see me, they're like, "Do you actually eat it?" They bring me salad, like a tiny bowl. I'm like, "What is this?" I'm not a rabbit. Don't feed me this. Like, bring me some proper food. I'm also African, so we eat. Right? Born and bred African, we eat food. But it's, again, I completely agree with you, because it's that thing. We look at metabolic rates and things like that. We know, Stefan, you know this. You know that when we eat food and regularly and we eat well, the body burns and it works. You know, for example, you went back to the sleep thing, and how sleep is correlated to our brain, to the food that we eat and what we crave. So important. You know, so I was just listening to you and I was laughing, thinking, oh my goodness, I can so relate to this, because people look at me and think, "You don't eat." I'm like, "I do eat." And then when I do eat, they say to me, "Where does it all go? Your big toe, your big toe." I'm like, "No, goes in my belly, works in the body. This is how it works." And I'll go back to, you know, part of my preparation with pregnancy. It was one of the things where I really had to strike the balance, you know, the balance of how much exercise is too much. I know myself, I can go crazy with exercise. And when I came to the point of preparing to start a family, it was literally having to think, okay, there needs to be a balance here. I need to strike this, I need fat, and so on and so forth. Your body needs fat, right? So we need a lot of things in the body, but it's having to strike the balance and making sure that you're not, you know, last year, again, one of the things I noticed in the pandemic was people were following different trends and different diets and different this and different that. You've got to understand what your own body, what your own, you know, body is, what your DNA is, before you jump in the boat of somebody else, because you could be doing more damage, you know, throwing all these fads and hacks and everything online. And for me, when my clients come to me and say, "I did paleo diet, I did Cambridge, I did all of this," I have to ask them, stop a second. Firstly, what are you like? What is your, let's look at your history. What have you tried, and why is it not working? It's not working because it's not meant for you. So let's look at what's really going to work for you, right? And also we have a lifestyle. I love the big wheel of life, Stefan. It's really looking at, and you're right, turn it down, like dial it down here and dial it down there. And the biggest thing is starting from the mentality. First of all, it's your mind. So your mental health is so important, because it feeds in to what the body absorbs, right? So I would say that really, when you think about it, it's a holistic approach. You've got to be holistic in what we do. You've got to look at it from all angles, from your relationships, because sometimes our relationship affects or impacts how we see food, or what relationship we have with food, right? What relationship we have with exercise, what relationship we have with just being. The second thing is, take the time out. Have lots of me time throughout the day, right? Because that's so, whether you're at work or whether you're at home, especially with pandemic, we worked at home a lot. It's identifying the different spaces that your home, you know, can create for you, and not, for example, working at your bedroom if you haven't got the space. Find a quiet time for yourself. Come away from your laptops and everything else, because that starts to de-stress you from the, you know, itself. We consume so much information, so much teletime and phone time and so on and so forth. I got to a point where I was using 15 hours a day on my phone, because iPhone tells you, right? It tells you. And for me, that was excessive. And I had to say, how do I turn this down? Because this is ridiculous. So really think about it. Have regular me times. The same way we advise people to have small exercises regularly throughout the day, as opposed to big pressure chunks, right? The same thing happens. Small me time throughout the day, so important. Meditate, however you choose, whether you want to read a book, write a journal, voice notes, small me time throughout the day, every day, if you can fit it in.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Stefan, looks like there's a question from Kiva. Yes, it works to lose weight, but for how long can you sustain it, and is it healthy? What are your thoughts?
When she's saying it works well to, yes, works well to lose weight, but how do you sustain what exactly? The big wheel of health. So if she's talking about the big wheel of health and questioning that, if we have to sustain it forever, I'm not talking about using the big wheel of health for a week or 2 weeks or a month and then just going back to what you did before, because that's just like, I can understand, as Christiana said, that the holistic approach. This is the holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask yourself a question, say to yourself, is that the truth? Or is it just the truth that I've created for myself? So a really interesting thing that my coach advised me to do was to write on a piece of paper. You would put lies on one side and truth on the other side. All right. So because between 60 and 90,000 thoughts we have every day, we can't track those or monitor that. 80% of those thoughts are coming from our subconscious, and our subconscious is made up of memory. 80% of those subconscious thoughts are negative. Everybody has 80% of our subconscious thoughts daily are negative. All right. And 80% of those negative thoughts are on repeat, or on loop. All right. So we can become more aware of our thoughts each and every day. So someone will say to me, I haven't got time to exercise. I haven't got time to think about what I'm going to eat. I haven't got time to drink water. What? It's just crazy. So if they say that to themselves, I'll say, well, write that down. I haven't got time to exercise. I can't go to bed at the same time every night. I can't drink 2 liters of water every day. Where's that come from? So if you write it down, you're going to notice the same thoughts on loop each and every day, because that's just the way everybody's brain works. Not just the male brain, not just the female brain. Everybody's brain operates. 80% of our thoughts are negative, and 80% of those thoughts are on repeat. So if you have a negative mindset surrounding exercise and wellness and healthy living, then you'll notice those thoughts are just on loop. So you write it down, and then you write out the opposing argument to that. You turn it into a positive statement. So I can't drink 2 liters of water a day. Turn it into, I find it easy to drink 2 liters of water a day. So repeat the positive statement, and it becomes your subconscious narrative. Does that make sense?
Yep,
so by turning your negative statement, which you believe is your truth, into a positive statement, it becomes your truth later on down the line by repeating it over and over again, because we learn stuff just by repeating it. Something's just come up about how effective are virtual workouts in your opinion? So
I agree with what you're saying, Stefan. The one thing that the clients I've worked with know is I take the word away, the word out, I can't. So they're banned from the word I can't. They're literally banned from the word I can't, because it's something that we tell ourselves. Remember earlier when I mentioned the self-negative talk, that's one of the things that as humans, we go to our comfort zone. And that comfort zone is the words, I can't, I'm unable to, I don't think. We begin those sentences with those words, and we associate getting results with those words, like, well, I can't, I don't, I'm unable to. And therefore, you're right in what you're saying, that you have to turn that on its head. So when you're looking at it and asking the question, why is that? What is the barrier? What is getting me to think that? Is it the time? Is it time management? Is it, demands or commitments that I've made? How do we turn around? But writing it down, but also taking practical steps, small chunks, practical steps to be able to achieve that. Because I've had clients who will say to me, there is no way on earth I'm going to drink 2 liters of water a day. Like, no way on earth, because they will drink everything else from Coke, 4 cans of Coke a day, right? Water is not a thing. Partly because that's a generational thing. That's how they were raised, that's how they were trained, and that's a lifetime of habits that we're asking them to let go of and come out your comfort zone overnight. So it's about saying, look, I agree with you. Don't say the word I can't, but look at how we can have a positive reinforcement. And when you walk away and repeat it about 100 times repetition, your subconscious starts to absorb it. So definitely, I think if it's okay, Raj, I saw is that a question about virtual workouts?
Yep. A quick one. If you can give your thoughts on virtual workouts.
So very quickly, I think when it comes to virtual workouts, and I can say for somebody who previously wasn't virtual, became virtual overnight, it's really important that we are careful of how we, first of all, from a professional point of view, that how we put workouts out there, that our instructions are clear, concise. My thing for me is really looking at the techniques, first of all, of exercise. The first thing that we need to understand is those absorbing this information. So virtual workouts is look for those, instructors or coaches that do actually teach you the techniques of, because if you have a good technique, it has an impact and your exercise becomes effective. Okay, so the difference between you seeing results in a short space of time to you seeing results in a longer space of time. So we try to understand and try not to jump into it. So they are effective because you can actually do the workouts, you can see the results, but you need to understand the techniques. So whether it's burpees you're doing or squats, and you're doing, get to understand. If you're not sure, email the person who is putting those virtual workouts out, ask questions and ensure that your technique and what you're doing is right. And also, in addition to that, is preventing injuries, because what the pandemic brought up is a lot of people at home suffered injuries too, just by mainly following and copying without real understanding and knowledge of what they're doing and having the right experts support them through that.
Okay, fantastic. You know what? We could go on and on forever. One final word from you, Emma.
Okay, all right. Just to add on, I agree with Stefan and also Christina about this, because I one of the participants who doing this via virtual. So I cannot deny if like for exercise we still need the actual platform, because like come back to the technique. If professional, maybe like they know what they are saying, but like for example, me myself, when I go through all this virtual platform to all this fitness, is quite there is a challenges, because some exercise there is a proper technique that you need to be done. And then if like talking about virtual exercise for normal routine, a normal one without any technique could be okay, could be fine, I think. But for me as a participant via virtual platform for the fitness, it's quite difficult, like we still need the expert to be there, like, hey, is it my inhale and exhale is correct, like, hey, you don't know, like, is it tight or not tight yet, like, so this is the thing that I'm struggling with. So you need to refer a few things, what mean by that, because we are not expert in this in this fitness, so we're able to see how they are doing. Like for example, there is a technique when you want to do plank, and then you want to do all the exercise, so it depends on what are the routine that you are doing for that particular fitness. But it's a normal routine for me, it should be easy to follow, like Zumba or for example. But if the special, if you want to create some apps or what, it's very, very need the professional to be there and assist you. That's what my feeling is.
It makes sense. Certain things, if the higher level of complexity, then it will be good to have the expert around for it to be more hands. Okay, we could go on and on. We have so many topics, so many other interesting bits, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. For those of you who have asked questions, no worries. We'll get our panelists here to answer them on the YouTube comments itself. On that note, Emma, Christiana, Stefan, thank you so much for your inputs and insights today. It has been most illuminating, and I'm sure our audience has found it very, very useful. On behalf of the Global Empowerment Summit, we hope all our audience have enjoyed this particular session, and we hope you continue to follow this amazing summit for the rest of the sessions throughout this and next month. On that note, everyone, have a great day. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.